Let the games begin, Batman. You will never stop me.
First I beat Liam Neeson, then I beat some fucked up clown. I think I can beat up some brute with a George Foreman grill on his face.
Ah, but you underestimated that I have the secret weapon, Batman.
Joel Schumacher.
Even worse than that.
Oh my god. You don't mean...
Hockey pants.
Hockey pants! Jesus Tap Dancing Christ, the movie we've all been waiting for is finally here. The Dark Knight Rises, the epic conclusion to Christopher Nolan's fantastic Batman Trilogy. I reviewed the first two on my channel. If you just want a quick rundown, Batman Begins, I love it. It's a fantastic origin story. The Dark Knight's one of my favorite movies of all time. Needless to say, me and the rest of the world were highly, highly anticipating this movie. Probably one of my most anticipated of all time, and I'm here to tell you, does it disappoint? Does it live up to the hype? The Dark Knight Rises takes place 8 years after The Dark Knight, and at the end of The Dark Knight, Batman takes the fall for Two-Face's crimes, and he later goes on the run because the city labels him a killer. So it's been 8 years, and Bruce Wayne is in self-imposed exile in his Wayne Manor, and he hasn't fought crime. He just walks with a cane. He's very old, and there's been peace in Gotham, but it's all based on the lie that Batman told, and it's kind of eating Commissioner Gordon away. But one day, this terrorist leader, Bane, comes into the town and rattles it like a cage, and what's also not helping is a Catwoman played by Anne Hathaway, who is also causing trouble in the city, and this makes Bruce Wayne come back as Batman and, for the final time, protect the city of Gotham. Now, I may or may not get hate for this review because, for one, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and it might be my favorite of the movie of the year. At the same time, I was a tiny bit disappointed, but my expectations were so high that they were kind of hard to meet. So, I don't know, take it as you will, but I still thoroughly enjoyed this movie, even though it's not the masterpiece that I kind of hoped it was. Now, there's a ton to love in this freaking movie. One, the acting by everybody is top notch, probably the best of the series. Christian Bale has never been better. This is the movie, besides Batman Begins, has the most focus on Bruce Wayne, the character, not Batman, and it's really interesting because there's a section in this movie that has a very Batman Begins-like feel and a very Batman Begins-like emotional arc for Bruce Wayne, and it was very nice to see the movie trilogy end with a lot of focus on Bruce Wayne's character and kind of go back to Batman Begins and get into the, pathos of Bruce Wayne. It was very, very nice return to that for me. Then you got the returning characters like Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, who's always great. You got Michael Caine, who, my god, Michael Caine as Alfred is so good. He almost made me cry a couple of times in this movie. Michael Caine might be the best performer in this movie, and he's only in like 6 scenes. Gary Oldman returns as Commissioner Gordon, of course, and I don't have to say Gary Oldman was good, because that's already a given. And then you got a lot of new characters in here as well, such as Tom Hardy as Bane, Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as John Blake, Marion Cotillard as Miranda Tate, and a whole slew of new characters as well. Anne Hathaway's Catwoman was definitely the most controversial addition to the cast, because a lot of people are like, I don't know if she could pull it off. I'm not the biggest fan of Anne Hathaway myself, but she was very good, and is really kind of the brightest spot of this movie in the sense where she's the character, she's the only one that has kind of a sense of humor. Without her, this would be like the bleakest superhero movie ever. It probably still is the bleakest superhero and darkest movie ever for a superhero movie, but without her, I mean, it would be like a depressing movie, and she kind of livens up the mood, and she's the best Catwoman that has ever been put to the screen, and she was sexy, she was funny, and there could have been more of her, to be honest. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as John Blake, he's a up-and-coming cop who's kind of like Commissioner Gordon's protege, is very likable. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's a fantastic actor. He's extremely likable in the movie, and he also has a great character arc. Marion Cotillard, a Nolan favorite, is very good. She has a important role in the movie as well, and she's always solid. But Tom Hardy as Bane, I was very interested in seeing because Tom Hardy is one of my favorite actors and is #1 on my man crush list. I'm admitting that right now. Because he has the toughest job in the movie to me. He has to follow Heath Ledger's amazing performance as the Joker, and also he has to perform with mainly his body language and his eyes, because most of his face is covered by this mask. And Bane was a pretty terrifying villain. Just the way Bane carries himself, he's like a cocky, arrogant guy, but he backs it up and you're afraid of him, and his fight style is brutal and he has no remorse. His voice, in my opinion, is like a cross between Darth Vader and Sean Connery. He was basically channeling Sean Connery in this role. I mean, his voice was definitely fixed from when I saw it in the prologue. It's almost completely different from when I saw it in the prologue. And I could understand him 90% of the time. There's some things where I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. But overall, he commands presence when he's on the screen, and you can't take your eyes off him when he's delivering some speeches in the movie. He's not as good as Heath Ledger, and I wasn't expecting that, because that's one of the best performances of all time. But he, like the Joker, commands attention when he's on the screen. Well, the movie also is very relevant to what is going on now. There's very Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street overtones, very 99%, with a 1% kind of problems going on, and it even has kind of a 9/11 feel in some of the shots too, so it's very relevant to stuff going on now, but it's not in your face and preachy. And of course, it's the epic finale, so you're going to get some amazing action, and I saw this in IMAX. I didn't see it in the true IMAX, I saw it in 35mm, and the screen was huge still, the sound was amazing, and I can't wait to see it for a second time in legit 70mm IMAX and really get the full effect, because the last 40 minutes of this movie, you're definitely going to be satisfied, and it's pretty awesome to watch. And I gotta say, the way this movie wraps up, the last 5 minutes of this movie are some of the best put into the Nolan franchise. I mean, the last 5 minutes of this movie wraps everything up so beautifully, so perfectly, and I was getting teary-eyed. It's literally one of the best endings to a superhero movie, or just a movie in general, that I've seen in the past couple of years. It's a fully satisfying ending, and it's almost the best part of the movie, in my opinion. And it pains me to say it, I like this movie so much, but I just couldn't love it. And there's one big problem that's kind of preventing me, and that's the middle of the movie. First 40 minutes of this movie, you get a really nice balance of action and emotional stuff. Especially the emotional stuff that worked fantastically for me. Everything that was character-driven or the dramatic stuff in this was grade A, some of the best in the series. But there's a middle in the movie where they seem to have too much stuff. It's like an overstuffed Hot Pocket where they have too many characters, and it just starts to feel a little bit bloated. And it's still very entertaining, but it's not as tight as The Dark Knight is. Like, The Dark Knight had a very perfectly written story with the right amount of pacing, and there's no fat. There's a lot of fat to trim here in the middle, and it just kind of starts to drag. This is a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, and I would say you really only get like an hour of actual Batman. Before the last 40 minutes, you only get like 2 scenes really with Batman, and they're great, and I was still entertained even when he was not there, but there was times where I was really missing the Caped Crusader, and I was kind of desperate for him to come back on the screen. And the big, plan that Bane has for Gotham, it's a very devastating plan, but the way it's handled, and I won't say what it is obviously, but what he has in store, it felt a little beneath Nolan. Like, it's something that is very, I wouldn't say, it's kind of a cliche, it's almost like a James Bond type of thing, and it worked, and it didn't really bother me, but I just expected something a little bit smarter from Nolan. I didn't mind it, it didn't bother me that much, but it just seemed like a little beneath Nolan, if that makes sense. I really wish I could love this movie, and I'm going to see it again, and hopefully I do love it, because it's a completely satisfying ending to the trilogy. It's probably tied for my favorite movie of the year. I don't know, I've gone back and forth between this and Cabin in the Woods, and I don't know if I'll get hate for it or not, but I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's a movie that the more I think about, the more I do like. I think if you're a fan of the trilogy, you're going to love it. And what's amazing about this series that Nolan's crafted is that each film has a completely different look and feel. The Batman Begins is completely different from The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight is completely different from The Dark Knight Rises, which is a very rare thing to find in the trilogy. Nolan's Dark Knight Batman Trilogy, it's one of the best trilogies of all time in my opinion. Hopefully I love it when I see it for a second time, but for right now I just thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm going to give The Dark Knight Rises a very strong 4 out of 5 stars. So that's my review. Please comment, rate, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys later.
You are the wonder, you wanna know